Hey,
Hey, Quentin. Good to see you.
good to see you too. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. It was a nice day,
Yeah.
actually. There was one thing that I didn't tell you earlier. No, well, first of all, hello everyone. Nice for coming in. And well, my day today was it started with my son in school, and I brought him there, and I was a reading parent today, so I was there, and a couple of these young guys came by to read their books to me, and I gave them stickers afterwards, and it was an amazing experience. It was really beautiful.
So cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun actually, and then a couple of deadlines hit, and I needed to finish a couple of images, and here we are. How was
Yeah.
your day?
Good, quite busy. Woke up at 6 to go to the first shoot of the day, then had about an hour to drive to the next one. Didn't even have time to catch some time to get some food down, but yeah, so got back home about 45 minutes ago. So now I'm
Right
sat
on
with
time.
you. Yeah, right on
Great.
time.
Great, great. Oh man. So, I guess
Just
we have got a very interesting topic today.
Yeah, just before we start, did you launch the recording on the Zencaster? Yeah.
Yeah, yes. Now.
Now we good.
Okay.
Cool.
Anyhow, what I always wanted to ask you, forgot last time, was are you reading something these days? And what is it?
Not really. I'm trying to get back into reading, but I don't read much anymore. I do like to listen to audiobooks though. When I go
Right.
out for walks in the evening, I like to just listen to books. Usually more about business and self-development, just to get some ideas because I don't have always the time during the day. So it's a good way to learn while resting a bit.
Absolutely. It's great.
Do
And
Yeah.
I love listening to audiobooks on all sorts of topics. And I don't know if you know that app called Blinkist. Does
Yeah.
that ring a bell?
Yeah,
And
I've used it for a while.
yeah, I just got back to it actually. That was kind of a Black Friday thing,
Yeah.
and I'm really into it, listening to a lot of books while on the images. But the mailman came, and I got that one, the new one by Gary Vaynerchuk, and I'm really
Oh,
thrilled to dive into
cool.
this new one. I read all his books, and yeah, gonna be fun, I
Yeah.
guess.
I've watched some of his stuff on YouTube, but I didn't even know he had books out. That's
Oh,
good.
he has got a lot, and I
Yeah.
guess the first one was launched in 2009, and it was called Crush It, and
Yeah.
it's about he shares his thoughts on how to grow a brand on social media,
Hmm.
and the same is or the follow up was called Crushing It, so very close to the first one. But yeah, it was great, and it has a lot of ideas on how to build brand, how to maintain your brand, how to get things going, and really interesting, and also a lot of great examples. But we're not here to talk about Gary Vaynerchuk, although it's quite interesting thing. And
Yeah.
but he has got a lot to say on tactics for business, and he might swear a lot, but I don't really mind. It's
Yeah.
nothing that I care about. I'm all for the message, and it's really fascinating guy that has got a great attitude towards business and towards kindness and business tactics, and he's got a lot to share. So great to follow him.
Yeah. It's interesting as well because we're going to talk about pricing negotiation and details about contracts and conditions. And I think one thing that's interesting is to learn from other businesses than just photographers and retouchers. Actually, I learned most of my stuff from people that were not in the creative industry, and
Yeah,
then you just adapt it to the creative industry. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting talk to see how you do negotiation and what are your conditions. And I'm eager to
Yeah,
learn as
absolutely.
well.
It's a very deep topic,
Yeah,
but I guess we can cover a few steps to go inside to, just not discuss a certain price, but certain tactics, I think, that have worked out in the past and that are fair for everybody, and
yeah, sure.
that will position you as someone that knows what he's doing. And I guess that's what it's all about, to be taken serious, to be taken as a loyal and most able to deliver partner. Is that correct to say so? But I
Yeah,
guess you know what I mean.
yeah,
And yeah, so how shall we start? I think we could. Oh, by the way, if someone has a question, just drop it here on Instagram, and we'll make sure to answer it if we may have the answer. But I guess there's a lot to talk about. So how about we throw in our, let's say, top three tactics or tips, and what we would tell our younger selves when
sure.
starting out. And are you up for your first one?
Yeah. I'd say the first thing, the best advice I had, and I think the best advice I try to keep in mind when it gets down to pricing and conditions as well, is to think about myself as being my agent and not me, the photographer. Because I think it was a video I saw on the Future channel. I don't know if you know of the Future.
No.
Great business channel. He's the guy, Chris Du. He's a designer, I think, or art director, and does a lot about business. And I think it's great for creatives of all kinds. And
Okay, cool.
he was doing an exercise asking someone to try to negotiate the price for a certain service, and the person was having a lot of trouble to keep the price up. And then he was like, okay, so now let's do the same, but you have got to defend me and not you. And interestingly enough, the person was getting a better price for someone else than for her or he. I think it was a lady.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then Chris was like, oh, but then, if you think of yourself as someone else, like someone from your family or a close friend, it's going to be harder to go down in price, because when it's you, if you don't have a high enough how do you say, self-estimation, ego, I can't
Self-esteem.
find the word. Yeah, self-esteem. Wow, too tired. Yeah, self-esteem. Then it's hard to defend the price, because you go low quite easily. Whereas when it's
Yeah.
for someone else, you just want to get the best deals for people that you love. And yeah, I think that would be the first advice I'd tell myself. Just like try to defend your price as if it was for a family member.
That's a great idea, because you would want those people to, get the best
Yeah,
for their craft.
yeah,
So I never thought about this one, actually.
yeah.
That's a
It's
great idea, and that works.
yeah.
You can say
Yeah,
from practice.
it does. And it's just something you've got to keep in mind, because sometimes you are going to go back to old routines and be like, oh, but if you don't have the budget, then I can go a bit lower. And then when you hang up the phone, you're like, shit, why did I say that? So yeah, something to keep in mind, I think. I try to keep in mind. I've been using it for about a year, and I think it works quite well.
Cool, great.
What's
Um,
yours?
well, my first one is actually, don't be shy to ask for all the details you can get, because knowledge is your superpower in
Yeah,
negotiating. And so in my case, for retouching, that would possibly mean that how many images is that job? Like, what's the scope of the image? And is it for print and web, or but nowadays the difference is fading, right?
yeah,
Because the resolutions are so high. And is there a brief, right?
yeah,
Because sometimes you get approached by clients that don't have a clear brief, and that would require some more questions, and you're better off if you are ready to ask those. So like, can you send full resolution images for me to evaluate those kind of work that I need to put in? And is it, for example, a composite image? Do we have to use different sources? Do you have all that material? Or is there, like, do we need stock photography? Or in worst case, does it have the right perspective? Does it have the right lighting situation? And all these kinds of things, because if you don't ask, and if you give a price based on just a request and not material, you end up in trouble, possibly, because you possibly get something that is completely the opposite of what they ask you. And therefore it's great to, you know, clear these questions in advance. Or is there a fixed deadline? Is there a certain budget? And if so, what is the budget? Because sometimes you know, clients ask you to give an estimate on time, but they say, well, we have a quite low budget on this project, and of course, fine, can happen. But I think it's fair and good to say that, hey, if you got a limited budget, please just give me the number, and I'll let you know what is reasonable in this range, what we can do, rather than saying no. I can say that, okay, I can give you an outline of what I usually do to images and what goes into it, like precise masking and let's say to get the maximum control on the image. And if not, we can level that down to a few touch-ups and the grading, but there's certainly not that amount of work that goes into it. And we can arrange something that fits the budget, but still gives you a good result. But that's something that I would want to know in advance. And or do you need print proofs? Do you have like a certain amount of correction rounds that you would like to do? And if you clear all those questions in advance, in the beginning it might seem awkward to ask all those questions because you just want to get to work. But once you do, and you might want to have a catalog of questions that you could just send or pick from a note that you have somewhere on your computer, you can throw in that questions. And if you get those over to the client, they're happy to answer them, or you help them think about things that they haven't thought about prior to asking you. You can be a good guide on that job because they see that you know what you're talking about, that you know what you expect for them to deliver, for you being able to deliver the best result. So that's going to be my number one tip.
Yeah, that's
I
good.
would like to know that when I started out.
Yeah, that's for sure. Because oftentimes when you're just getting started, you're like, oh, he asked me for so and so, and I've got to create an estimate. Well, I just gonna put a number down because I don't know all the answers, and oftentimes you don't even have the question that you have to ask, and then you learn the question by the time. Yeah, that's a good one, especially as you can then underestimate and or overestimate. It's hard because then if you don't have everything down in the estimate and you send the estimate, can turn out then the client is going to ask for more, but as you didn't write down a specific like brief in the estimate, because that's something I do as well. So always writing down the brief in the estimate, so I'm sure I know what I'm going to do and what the client can expect from me for the price.
Yes,
so that's
and
why
you have got something that you can rely on, or that you can get back to, then say, hey, we agreed on this. And now that you have got this request, I'm happy to do it, but I'll send you an updated suggestion and or an updated outline of the work that we have to agree on. And most of the professional clients are completely fine with that. Sometimes it's just something that it's in our own heads, and I think I cannot say that, but actually they expect you to know what you're talking about, and they identify you as a reliable and really thoughtful partner when you position yourself as an expert, knowing what to ask for. And of course, you can also, sort out people that approach you by these questions. So if they don't have an answer, it's possibly not the job that you want to do. And you shouldn't be sorry to say no. Because a no, I think we had this in one of the previous ones, but I think it's good to repeat that a no, a yes to something can also be a no to yourself. And it's very good to actually know what you want to do and not to take everything, because it can block you from other great opportunities that come your way if you ask better questions. Or if you go in more detail, it can be like, do you have a creative vision? Is there a color grade? Is there references that you can provide? And would it make sense to have me on the shoot? So that we can evaluate if we got everything, especially for composite work. I like to do that. And it's mostly highly appreciated that, everybody's safe, and we can evaluate the perspectives, the lighting situation, and then at a later stage, I can move on and do the retouching. Some people just don't think about that, to, make yourself available for some kind of on-site work, to be actually really helpful in the situation, because then everybody knows what they get.
True. And another thing about that, I remember for me in the beginning, it has created so much frustration at times, and I got mad at clients just because, not because of them, but because of me, because I didn't ask the right questions, or I forgot to ask some questions, and then they had expectation that I didn't even think of. Like in the beginning, I still do a lot of my retouching, but I'm not a retoucher. And I remember for many shoots, I didn't put down how many correction round the client would get. And then some client would get back to me like 5 or 6 times for small details, and I'd just get mad because I'm like, I've got better things to do. But actually I was mad because I knew I was stupid. It was my fault. It was not theirs. If I had put down the price, perhaps they would still have come back for 5 or 6 times, but they would have paid for it. Whereas I was doing just free work and not the kind you want to do. And then I was mad and I didn't want to work with the client anymore. And the client didn't understand why I was acting weird. And it's something, if you ask the right questions, you avoid so many problems. And it's just a thing of asking the right one. And actually, I think I don't know if I can talk about that, but last time we were on the phone, you told me you had a list of questions to ask, which is something that's interesting, I think.
Absolutely, yes. I pulled together all those questions that I always asked clients, or that came on top of the list that I already had by experience from previous projects. And I called it this PDF, I called it Ask the Right Questions. And I can certainly provide that, and we can set up a link and share it if somebody's interested. Sure.
It's in your newsletter, right?
Yeah, but it's not active at the moment.
Okay.
I had to move it to another what's that?
Provider?
Service. And I'll set it up again until next time, and then I can provide it. Sure.
I was trying to make some good marketing for you.
You did. Thank you. This is not running at the moment, but
sorry,
it's not an issue.
I'll try to say it again next time then.
Yeah, we'll bring it up, and I guess this is a topic for a whole episode. Ask the right questions, because there are so many that you can possibly ask. It depends on the job and on the circumstances. But I think it's very important that we point out that when it's about negotiating, it's not only price, right? It's price is just one tiny bit, because you have to know your worth, and you have to know kind of what the industry charges, not to be too low on price, because that is also something that can kick you out very fast without even noticing that you're going to be kicked out. And why? Because if you work with professional agencies or with experienced art buyers, it can most likely happen that if you get asked for a quote and you provide them with a number and it's too low, they might think that, I asked a couple of art buyers that I know exactly this question, that what do you do when someone charges too less in your opinion? They say, well, the first thing that I think is this guy doesn't really know what we want.
Yeah.
Because if this is way too low price-wise, he or she obviously doesn't really know the scope of the work that needs to be done.
Yeah.
And that is something that can kick you out really fast. So if you charge too less on an industry basis, it's very good to know that you should like get yourself into it and ask some questions to get these information prior to giving a price.
Yeah.
Because then you will be most likely positioned in a better situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also those circumstances, right? You need to know, as we talked about a couple of things earlier, when is the delivery, when is the deadline, and what kind of corrections do these guys expect, and so on. But it's the same with photography, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's always the same. I mean, the questions are different, but
sure.
I mean, whatever work you do in the creative industry, it's going to be the same.
I think we've got a lot of photographers here that listen or watch. So what would you say from your experience when you get asked for a quote to create, like, I don't know, 5 campaign shots for a brand, let's say for still photography?
You mean the questions?
What would you ask? Is there something that comes to your mind that you would have liked to ask when you were starting out that you do now? Is there something?
It would depend on the brand, because it depends how you get approached. But I'd say if it's a client that goes directly to me and not through an agency, I'd ask if they have an art director, because I've got sometimes brands coming to me and expecting for me to do the art direction. And while I'm okay to do it, I'd charge for it.
Yes.
I'd ask if they have a set designer, because some brands do, some don't. If it goes through an agency, they've got preferred people that they want to work with. If it's direct client, I usually can do it myself. As far as questions, if I cannot get a budget, what I like to ask, and that I didn't ask in the beginning, was like, knowing my pricing now, I know pretty much how much I'm going to charge for a certain type of work. So for some clients, I know it's hard to ask for a budget, but I can say, oh, my last shoot that was quite similar to that was about a certain amount, and I just say how much, and I typically try to say a bit more than it was, so that I know if the client knows how much it costs. And if you say, oh, that's a bit high, okay, well, then I can go a bit lower. And if it's really too high, they're gonna be shocked and just be like, oh, I didn't expect that. And then you know where to go about budget. And if that's too high, then you can come down, or, well, come down. You can come down by removing stuff, or saying, okay, well, then perhaps we can do something different on fewer shoot days, or with fewer pictures, or fewer products, or smaller set design, or whatever.
Yes.
But that's something I didn't ask in the beginning, because I actually didn't know how to price, and it was quite difficult to ask for a budget. And I think it does help, because then a recent job I took was way low on my typical rate, but the project was just something I wanted to do, and I knew the client wouldn't pay more. So I took it knowing that I wouldn't get more, and it wasn't the typical rate I should charge. But still, sometimes I do like to know the budget, so I know if I want to take it, I'm gonna have to do it with less money in the end. But if it's something interesting, it can be good as well. So yeah, budget is something I try to ask in some manner, just to get a sense. Something I didn't ask in the beginning was usage, because when you get started in photography, oftentimes you don't get the concept of usage, why people should pay for pictures they hire you to create. And then when you get into it, it makes sense, and it's where you can make the most money actually, and some kind of passive income if you do great work. So that's something that's really, really good, and something that photographers should learn, because so many people undervalue usage, especially nowadays with digital, because some photographers still charge so little for digital usage, whereas it's actually more interesting today, especially with COVID, than print. People don't walk in the streets anymore.
That is true. Hey, that's just a question, or actually a message by Niels Decker, and he asked if this is a highlight later. Yeah, it is. We record all our discussions, and you could see them in the replay, or later on there will be other channels where we will publish those discussions, just for you to know. You can pick up your kids now. You just said. Yeah, but that's a really great point that you just pointed out. I think another thing that is really one thing that I learned was you need to be able to estimate the time that you need to get the job done.
Yeah.
You need to really be able to understand how long it takes you to get that image ready, but also to do all the things that are like part of the job too: the communication, the negotiation, the correction rounds, the data delivery, and all those discussions in between. You need to be able to get a feeling for how long that takes you, like writing emails, having phone calls. And that was something that I really didn't think about at all in the beginning. Like, I knew that, I always said that, yeah, there's project management, but I didn't really know, especially when it came to really, let's say, complicated in a positive way jobs that just have got a lot of details, and clients expect to have like 5 correction rounds because they are used to that. And so you have to know that, what does a correction round mean actually? Because a correction round isn't just like any other correction round, because if you don't specify in your proposal that a correction round on the last correction round, the second one, can only be based on the first one, not something completely new that they find in the image. Because I had that a couple of times.
I actually don't like the retouching.
First correction round was like just a few tiny things, right? And this and that and that. And the second one, you did all that. And the second one was, oh, and now we found this and that and this. So that's not how it works. And that's not how you can calculate a job. And this is something that is really, 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 really absolutely necessary to specify. Because if you don't do that, you end up in a never-ending correction circus, and nobody wants that. No client wants that, and you don't want that. So you need to be able to nail that down by being more precise in your proposal, I guess.
Yeah,
that's what helped me a lot, to say that we got 3 correction rounds and they are all like stacked on each other.
Yeah.
And so what we said, like, we need to calculate the time for the project management, for the retouch itself, for the correction rounds. And because if you do that And if you get a feel for how long you need for that certain project, you then have a clear idea on your free capacities for other jobs that you could take. Because if you think about the next job only when you finish the previous one, you're going to miss out opportunities and you will not grow. Because you need to look for the next job when you start the previous one, not when it's finished. So but that will happen over time. You will be more experienced, and you will get a feel on what it actually takes you to finish a job. Because when you start out, that's a different story. Then you like have a lot of, let's say, new ways on finding a solution. But once you're a little more experienced and work gets a little more repetitive, it can be beneficial to have that capacity in your mind that, you know, that I'm gonna possibly need 2 hours to finish this image, and if it's like 10 of them, it's it's 20 hours, and let's put another 5 hours for the communication and the this and that and the proof approval and whatever, and then you can see that you have got a lot of hours left for the week or the next 10 days or whatever, or the month, and you can evaluate how long it would take you to, if there's a like a certain deadline, and you can then decide, maybe I should expand my team so that I have got 1 or 2 people that support me, or that I can give some parts of the work to other service providers that help you, like do the clipping paths or masking or I don't know, whatever is necessary. But these are things that you need to be able to evaluate.
That's true. And an advice I was given by another creative, I think it was a creative director. He told me something you should do when estimating time is always double what you think is right. Because usually you're gonna way underestimate, especially when it comes to, for photographer at least, I think retouching is something we tend to underestimate. It's like, oh, it's just like a couple of shots. I can do it tomorrow watching Netflix, and that's easy. One day it's gonna be done, and then next thing you know, 3 days later, you're still in front of your computer retouching and spending time you should use for marketing or shooting other clients, and you're just losing time. So it's not a good practice to underestimate time, definitely.
Absolutely. And now you brought up a good point, because if you do the retouching yourself as a photographer, you possibly should know what kind of work needs to go in a commercial retouch. Because if you do some free work for yourself, it's absolutely fine to spend that time that you think is necessary. But if an advertising client wants you to create like an advertising industry standard retouch, you need to know what it is, and you need to get your hands on that, and or at least talk to people that do that kind of work, and then you can estimate if you want to do it yourself, or if you possibly hire someone that can get that work done for you in a very decent amount of time, and you are free to shoot the next images.
I think that's a huge mistake many photographers make when they are starting out. It's just seeing the numbers on the estimate and on the invoice and being like, oh, that's going to be in my pocket. Cool. And sometimes it can be true if you've got spare time and you know you're not going to have another shoot for a couple of weeks, then you know you can do the retouching yourself and you can put the money in your pocket in some way.
Sure. And that's fair. That's absolutely okay.
But then it's a good thing to hire someone who does it better and is going to free you up some time so that you can market yourself to get new clients. I'm a huge believer in hiring people that are better than you and not hire someone who's not as good as you. You should always find someone who's better at you for things that you don't like to do, and just concentrate on what you can do best, and it's helping a lot, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like every part of that supply chain needs to be on a very good level. So you need to have good photographer, of course. You need to have a good set design, let's say also styling, makeup, whatever the job takes, set designer or whatever. And or like the photo assistant, light assistant. You need these kind of people to create that vision that you have. And if you save money on the wrong what is that kind of element? Is it element or part in that supply chain? If you do that, you are gonna save also like on the quality that you deliver.
Yeah.
Because if you decide that no, I'm not gonna pay X amount of euros or dollars or whatever or Bitcoin to the retoucher, and I'm gonna hire someone that sits somewhere in a clipping path factory in India. Not that these guys are not really valuable to deliver the work, but you're gonna have a lot less control of the creative process. And the other thing is that there might be a certain mismatch in the expectations that you have than external players have.
Yeah.
And if you have got someone that is, as you said, better than you in retouching, for example, you're gonna end up with a result that most likely will be the best for your client, because you and by taking someone that is more experienced and maybe has a better price, or let's say he has got a certain price level that reduces the amount of money that you get, but it gets you a better result in the end. This is much more like forward thinking than doing it just for this one gig.
Yeah.
If you want to save, then I guess that's a wrong mindset about that. If you hire someone that really delivers more than you expect, or that more than you can do, you will be better off on the long run. And you should pay a good price to the people that you work with, because then they can deliver with both hands, right? And not have one fist in the pocket and the other one at the Wacom pen. And you just need to be like true to yourself and to your team. But good people do that. But people in the beginning, they might possibly not think about that, because they think, I need that money, and that's true. But if you think for the long term and you build a team of people that are better than you, you are gonna grow a lot faster.
Yeah, that's true. And something that, coming back to the negotiation part, something that has helped me to grow, and you touched on it a bit before, was learning to say no as well. That helped me grow a lot. And not just say no for the sake of just being like a douche. It's more about saying no because, how can I say that? There are two reasons, I think, in my opinion, like saying no because you cannot deliver the project. I think that's a big one. People are more about the say no because it's underpriced, under-budgeted, and it's not the only reason. I think it's more interesting to say no when you know you cannot deliver the quality. Or actually, I would even dare say, if you cannot over-deliver, because if you can't over-deliver, you know the client is going to come back for more. If you can just deliver what the client expects, they're going to be like, cool. It's the same as when you go to a restaurant. If you get something that you didn't expect, you're just eager to go back as soon as you can. It's the same with creative people. If you just deliver, like I had a retoucher I worked with, he delivered me a few images of retouch as I asked, and then he was like, oh, and I just threw in one that I was color graded, so you didn't ask for it, but if you do like it, well then that's how much it's going to cost for the whole set. And that's something I like, because the person went
Right.
beyond what I expected, and the work was great. And I feel like that's something we should all aim for. And I've had clients that came to me, and when I heard the budget, I was like, wow, it's so much money. I should say yes. But at the same time, I just don't have the shoulders right now to handle that kind of budget and work. I don't have the team to work with. I don't know the people that I could hire, and I'm not gonna risk a huge job with people I've never worked with, unless it's the client that's going to hire them. I think it's
Yeah.
important to say, I can do it. I know I can deliver, and not just wing it. For a small job, that's fine, and I've done that a lot in the early years of my career. But right now, when I get huge demand, I'm like, nope, sorry.
Well, yeah, I agree. I agree. But there's also another thought that if it's outside your comfort zone,
Yeah,
it's still something that you could go for. You know,
yeah,
if it's not too far out, if it's
yeah,
not way there. But you know, if you get something that you think you possibly are gonna struggle a little bit,
yeah,
let's go for that,
yeah,
because you're better than you think, and you got some time after hours, right? You
yeah,
can put in these hours to create
yeah,
something that is special. Or if you think that there's some kind of issues, possibly get yourself a network of close friends or like peers that can help you,
yeah,
because that's how you grow. If you only take on the jobs that you think you're safe, you will only get those jobs. But if you
yeah,
aim for the slight steps that are like higher, you will get those. You will see that you get to the result that clients want.
yeah.
And
I think that's something you can feel as well, because it's not
yeah,
something.
sure.
Even if you've got jobs that you are not sure you can deliver in, I think that's something you feel like, okay, I've got the network to help, or I can find resources, or I know I can handle that. There are projects, if you just miss it, you're gonna ruin yourself for a future job with an agency, or like I had a job for a really high price, which I knew if I would not deliver, it was
Absolutely.
done.
And if your gut says no,
Yeah,
you should possibly listen.
yeah,
But if it's your mind that says, I don't know if I can
yeah,
do that,
yeah,
that's something else, because you have to get out of your head, and you
yeah,
have to get doing it, because challenges are the things that make us grow. But I completely agree with you that if
yeah,
you think this is too big for me, you better be honest, because there's honesty and like knowing what you can deliver is something that is truly valuable, a
yeah,
very
and
valuable skill. And if you got that, and if you cultivate that, you're going to grow too.
yeah,
But I just wanted to point out that, but I've been there. You know, I've done jobs that were out of my range, and of course there were some that I screwed up in the beginning, but I took responsibility on that, and I said, hey guys, if this is not what you expected, this is on the house. I
yeah,
won't charge you, and you can always find your way out by being honest. But sometimes it's not you uh, and your skills. There we are back to the first points. Sometimes it's miscommunication,
yeah,
and there's a difference between those two things. If you are out of skills, that's something that you cannot solve in this very moment. But if there's miscommunication in advance, you can definitely avoid that by asking the right questions. And there we are again. This is a very important point. And but to finish this, you're absolutely right. This thought of yours, if you cannot deliver that, don't take it, and
yeah,
be honest about that.
yeah,
And it's sometimes it's also capacity thing. You know, if someone asks you for 30 images retouched by next week. Yeah, it's possibly not for a one person job. It's possibly for a team, and so you can like build that in advance, like build a team of people that you trust, also as freelance team that you can build to have something that you could like rely on when it gets to that point. And but I think there's another question that is interesting to discuss, and that is, how do you charge as a photographer, and how do you charge as a retoucher? Meaning, there's different models that you can use. You can for as a photographer, it's better if you say what kind of options there are. But as a retoucher, I can say that there's the option to charge by the hour, you can charge by day, or you can charge by a project price. And it depends, right? In the beginning, it might be interesting to charge by the hour, to be a little more like say open and like transparent on that. But once you get better and more efficient and faster, and you have got a lot of experience, charging by the hour doesn't make that much sense, you know, because you're fast and efficient, and why should you get less than someone that just, you know, like does it for a year? So that doesn't make any sense. And there we are with, like, let's say a project price, which is much more interesting and scalable. That gives you a lot better returns, because most clients are used to have a certain project price. They don't hire you to work by the hour most of the time. And or what you can do is, you know, that you, let's say you work for a client that asks you for campaign images for a certain brand, and you know that one of those images will take you an X amount of time, and you still need to be profitable as a service provider. And to be able to do that, you estimate how long it takes you. You set a certain price for your time, for yourself, you know, for the day, let's say, and you calculate yourself how much days you need. And once you did that, you like, as you said, you can double that, and then you are somewhat close to have like also room for the whole communication and organization part, and you're still profitable, because you need to make a plus. If you only sell your time, there's always someone that wants to go bankrupt faster than you. There's always someone that does it cheaper. And if price is the argument for the client, you can only lose. But if they go for quality, and if they go for a reliable partner, they are willing to pay the price that you ask, if it's not completely out of range. But mostly there's a room for negotiating, and that leads to the next point, because if you notice that they don't agree to the project price that you offer, you then can say, okay, let's think about options that we have. We now have a project price that includes, like, let's say 5 correction rounds. We can reduce those to 3 or to 1, and we can cut out a certain price, because then we can reduce the amount of work that goes in. And if you really need some more correction rounds, we can pay those by round, and we define a price for that. That would be fair for everybody. They know what they get. And if it takes longer, you can like charge what you agreed on earlier. But if you don't do that, of course you can charge by the hour, but most likely is that you don't get that what you're worth, because then you're comparable to other, let's say, hourly rates by people. And it happens so often, and I get mails and I get asked that, what's your rate for beauty retouching? And I always respond that I'd love to give you a quote, but therefore I need to see what you really need me to do. So please send me your images. and I can descend those in high resolution so that I can see what needs to be done. And if you got a brief, please attach that brief too. And then I can give you a quote that is like written in stone, and we can agree on that. But I can't give you a quote without seeing the actual images. And but how do you do that with photography?
It's pretty much the same. Just hold on, because my phone went into a low battery and
Okay.
the screen was just going off.
Do you have put
Sorry.
some energy there?
Yeah, no, it should be fine. I think we've got about, what, 10 minutes left, so we should be good. Should be good.
All right.
Sorry. But yeah, photographers, I think it's the same. Some people go by the hours, some go by half a day, some by full day, other by projects, or I've even heard some people that were doing some kind of like, as many wedding photographers do, like the package pricing, like I don't know, I will shoot 10 images for a certain amount, or but I think for photographers, the best case scenario is going for a creative fee or a photographer fee, which is usually a half day or a full day rate, which makes it's, I mean, industry standard, I'd say at this point. Especially when you start working with agencies, it's usually something that you are going to see. Or sometimes nowadays it can be combined with the usage as well. But the estimate usually is just a per project. Going by the hour, I think you're not gonna get anything positive out of it. Like you said, I mean, why someone who's just getting started should be paid more than someone who's experienced? Doesn't make sense. I mean,
of course you can adjust your hourly rate.
Yeah.
But most likely this hourly rate kicks you out of the discussion at some point if you only compared by that hourly rate, and people are not really looking for quality. And there you can see that what the client really wants, right?
Yeah.
If they are looking for high quality work, or if they look for a cheap solution for their problem.
Yeah.
And this is something that you need to be able to identify, and you can do that by certain tactics. And that's fair for everybody, because if you don't want to do that cheap job, you just don't. You know, there's no one that can like force you to do so, and you need to be sure of what you want to do. And that's actually another point that I figured out is something that is really valuable. I made the decision at some point to only work for the full price or for free.
Yeah.
And the full price is what not a fixed amount of money, but the full price is what I would charge for that project, right? For that very project. There's no price for, like, there's no fixed price. And if you have got that, range in your head, you can agree on that price, or you work for free, because then you can skip that cheap part. You're not working for cheap. If you work for the amount of money that you want, or if you work for free, it gives you the freedom of keeping your value up. And you can be like working for free if it's for like an NGO, or for a certain project that you would like to have as a test, or for something that you want to open a door with, and or you can say that, hey, I'm gonna do that for free because I really want to help you out in this situation, and by doing that, you can position yourself as high as you need to be, because then you can say that, and the next one is going to be the price that I give you here. But if you can't afford that now, we can certainly agree on a free test, or let's say we can work that one for free, and we skip those corrections or whatever. You can then be, because then they will be most likely very tolerant when it comes to you cutting out a few of these service parts.
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
and about paying or charging by the hour. Just to come back to that. So many photographers told me they've got a hard time not charging by the hour because some clients are going to ask, but I want to know how much time you're going to spend. And they don't know how to answer. Just something that could help some people is just ask the client if they are buying your time or images that they can use to make money and promote the company or product. And
Good one. That's a great
usually
one.
they are going to say, I'm gonna buy the images, not the time. They don't really care. They buy your experience, which is why the more you have, the more expensive
Yeah,
you are,
absolutely.
and not just buying by the hour. Sure, sometimes I do still charge by the hour for some specific projects where it does make sense because
Yes, absolutely.
charging
And
for a
I
full day, it doesn't make sense. But yeah,
absolutely. And you're right. It's not a rule that like is like fits to every kind of
yeah,
request. But of course you can do your service for an hour, but then you charge what you want for an hour and
yeah,
not what somebody else pays for an hour. Because, you know, when you get approached by someone that says, hey, I got that beauty shot here. I need you to retouch that for a campaign for this brand. And I've got like 50 euros. And can you retouch that? Because the other retoucher that he did that for 40 euros. And you can say, well, no, if it's not your price, right?
yeah, yeah,
And if the other one does it for 40, why do you offer me 40? Go to this guy
yeah,
and do it, you know. And but then you see that it's a client that possibly doesn't really look for the better quality. It goes by price.
yeah,
And if it feels like dumping for you, that's a really big red flag.
yeah,
And you need to make a decision. If you want to position yourself as someone that works for a really cheap price or that can be negotiated down, um, it can lead to frustration,
yeah,
and you will not likely be able to go up on the same service for that very client.
yeah,
They always possibly it's an assumption, but most of the times you will hear that, hey, last time you did it for this price, and why do you want more this time? And then again, if you in the beginning say, that's another option, by the way, if in the beginning say, this is the price that I usually charge for that kind of job. And if then you hear that, but we only have got a limited budget. And one option that you have when you still want to do that job is that you can say that, okay, I'm gonna give you the price that you set yourself as a max, but we will reduce like a certain amount of let's say corrections, and we do that once now, but I cannot guarantee that we can do the same price again next time. We will have this as a test, and maybe it works. Maybe we don't need any corrections, or just tiny ones. And if you give me a really good brief, we can like work out something that might do it. And then afterwards, you can sit together and see that, hey, that's what we estimated. It worked, or this is something that went completely over top, or over estimate,
yeah,
and that's something that we cannot do again. Sorry, and next time we need to. Then you have got arguments like, you see that we needed more corrections, we needed a more precise brief. Whatever circumstances were there that didn't enable you to do that kind of job that you like expected, you have got arguments on your side, and it's most likely that you can then negotiate better for the next one.
Yeah.
And nobody loses his face, so to say.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And just getting back to the comparing, like one client compare you to someone who's cheaper, that's something I know many creatives are the same. Just being like, oh, it's gonna ruin the market because he's going so low, which is, I feel it's so not true. Because in any case, you are always going to be on the low scale for someone who's gonna feel that you are just going too low for a job or as an overall business. And I know many people are telling me that I'm too high for what I do, or that I'm high for the area that I'm working in. And just the other day, like this week, I had a call with a photographer who called me, and he was like, "But your pricing is just crazy. It's way too low." So
It
yeah,
depends on the perspective all
it
the
depends on the
time.
perspective. And like you said, some projects like the one I was called for, that was a project I wanted to work for, and I knew the budget wasn't going to be higher than it was. So I was like, well, I want to shoot it. I know the client is not going to pay more, and they are going to find someone who's going to do it for the price because that's the budget they have.
Yeah.
So if I want to shoot it, I'm going to take it, and I've got no shame. But I know as well that the next time the client is going to come around, I'm going to say, well, no, that was a one-off thing. I'm not going to do the same price all over again.
Yes.
It was for the project. We worked together. It was fine, and it was great. I wanted to do it, and now, well, my pricing is not what I charged, but you know it, and yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. But you can be transparent from the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And not to have like surprises afterwards, because if you say that I'm going to do that for you, that's fine. But I'm not going to do that again if this doesn't work the way we expect it to.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's fair, and that's something that nobody can say no to.
Yeah.
Because everybody gets what he wants. You have got that new experience, and if it works, you have got a new client, and that's great. But you have to know your worth.
Yeah, you've got to know your worth, and that helps getting the budget out of the client as well, like we talked about in the beginning. Because just to also get back a bit on the budget, I feel like it's usually something people don't like to talk about, because it's kind of the game of who's going to put the foot forward first. And usually as creative, we don't like to talk about money first. So I'd advise people to just try and give some idea of pricing, like I said before, just to get the pricing out of the client as quickly as you can, so that then you know your worth and how low you can go or how high you can go depending on what you want to offer the client. And it's also when you know when to say no, because if you don't know what's your worth, clients are going to go lower and lower and lower. And I feel that's something many creatives get mad about. It's so many people say, oh, but you know, so and so client doesn't have money, or they don't want to pay. Well, sure, but did you ask for more money, or do you just think they don't have more money?
True.
Because last year I was teaching a still life photography course, and some people told me, but how could you get paid so much for just a couple of pictures? And I was like, well, I'm just asking for it. I mean, it's no more complicated than that. If you never put a large number on your estimate, no one is ever going to pay for it. I mean, if you just keep on asking for $1,000 for a shot done on one day with retouching included and full buyout, well, people are going to be all over it if your work is good. I mean, who wouldn't pay for the best deal ever? If you ask more, well, you're gonna get more.
Absolutely. And the dilemma that you get in is if you position yourself too low price-wise, people would think that you're cheap.
Yeah.
And if they have got a bigger budget, they most likely go to someone else that charges a higher price if they have got the budget for like a higher paying for a higher, or let's in their eyes possibly say, now I'm going to go for quality.
Yeah.
I'm going to charge I let this guy, I take this one that is famous for this campaign, and you will not end up there because you can deliver that, but you're not seen as someone that can deliver that.
Yeah.
And that's a decision that you need to make, right? If you want to position yourself as someone that works for a very low price and you keep that price, you never be able to get paid for the amount of quality that you can deliver. You will always be compared to the cheap ones. And that is something that I see so many freelancers do that are long in the business, that never rose their price, and that are now stuck with that price and are compared by that price and not by their quality, which is a pity because they are so good. And this is something that you need to avoid if you want to be having some time for something else too, besides doing cheap work, because you are way much more than what you get paid for there in this circumstance. If this was understandable now.
No, that was, and someone just commented, it's a psychological thing, and I think that's so true. In the beginning of 2021, I started to send some estimate that were double what I would send in the past. And the response I had was no after no, but not client telling me that's too high, was client telling me we choose someone else. And that to me states that some people were ready to pay, but they just found another option that was better. Because usually when you are way too high, people are going to tell you, well, we didn't think that was the kind of budget we would put out. And it's just something you've got to try. Even like the first job I sent early 2021, I knew it was a job that was 10 or 20K. I sent out an estimate for 50K. And I was just like, I don't care. I know I'm not going to get the job. I don't even know why they asked me for a price. So I'm just going to send out and just see what's coming back. And then you send out and just get something and you're like, well, okay. And people are sometimes coming back to negotiate, or sometimes they just don't answer and you just have to try.
Exactly. And this is also educating your clients and yourself. You know, and especially educating your client is something that is really important because they don't know what you do to the image in particular, as a retoucher, for example, because you need to let the people know what kind of work you are going to put in to make it comparable. You know, if you say that, hey, I'm going to mask out every element of the image that is important, I'm going to be able to then do all the different retouching steps that we need to provide you a really good and natural image. And then there's going to be a nice color grade, and we make sure that this works in print and also in web. And we have got a non-destructive workflow. And by doing so, we will always be in complete control over the image, and we can always go to wherever you are or wherever you want to be with that image. And if you don't do that, we can work in a different way. That is going to be cheaper. We could just do some touch-ups and do global grading instead of really balancing out all the kind of colors and every element to make it really pop. So there's a range of things that we can do to the image, and it depends on your budget what we can do, right? And if you educate your clients and actually open your book of opportunities that you can do, that you can deliver, they can pick and choose. But then they know what they pay for, and you can then have a much more informed decision, because most of the people don't really know what is possible in post-production or in photography. Of course, you can have the best light, you know, you can have the best set design, you can have the 2 or 3 assistants, and that is the difference in the outcome than if you would do everything on your own on set on that day, right? And so you can compare that to all kind of creative process. And if you if you open up that book and you let people know what kind of choices they have, they will most likely be willing to pay that price because they know, hey, this guy is knowing what he talks about. We know what we get in the end, and we are in complete control over the whole process. Yeah. That's what we want. We want security, and therefore we are really willing to pay. We get what we ask for. There's no surprises, and that's our job, to sell, actually, to sell a vision. And if we are able to do that, it's going to be much more easy to actually get the price that you want, because they're interested in getting what they want, and that's the best result. It's that simple, but you need to get there. And what does your phone say? Do we have a couple more minutes, or are we shutting down?
Hold on, I'm going to check how much percentage I'm left. I've got
0.5.
I've got 12% left, so we should be good for a bit of more time. And just talking about price, if I may, because I know some photographers don't realize how much you can get paid, especially when getting started. I don't know about retouchers. When you got started, if you thought you could make how much you do now for a single shot. But I've seen some, I don't charge that much, but I know some photographers showed me some, well, it was for a global campaign, but still, I've seen estimate going around for well over 2,100 euros. So, I mean, 200K is something some clients are going to pay for great images for a global campaign with buyouts sometimes. But it's something that's still around, and some people just don't even know, and they're like, well, yeah, but that's just some people. Yeah, sure. But you could be someday that some people for others. And it's, yeah, usage is a big deal. Like someone just said, it's so true. Like if someone is going to go full buyout, or if someone is going to be like, oh, just like 6 months for Instagram because we need a couple of posts, obviously it's not going to be the same. But no. Still, I mean, money is still thrown around, and I believe in advertising more than ever. There is money. Depends on what company you work with, but you've got to be aware of how much can be made and not be afraid of being like, oh, that's already over 5K, that's a lot, because you know, my friend who's working all day long in an office, he's not making more than that in a month. Sure, you've got different charges as someone who's self-employed, and 5K job is not 5K in your pocket, and 5K for
not at all.
Yeah, and 5K for like, I don't know, some huge company in cosmetics or clothing or whatever. It's not that much. I mean, just take like a perfume company who's going to sell perfume for $300 a pop, and then you multiply that by how many they can sell in a day, and you're going to shoot campaign for that perfume that's going to sell, I don't know how many times because of you. Then you can start realizing, oh yeah, sure, so my work is helping selling that. They are going to make a lot of money using it. So I could actually charge a bit more. That's something that helped me as well when beginning to realize how much I could charge, because I started to calculate how much profit they could make out of products.
That's a great point. Really important.
Yeah.
Because if it's for, let's say, an editorial for a photographer and the retouch, and it's going to be printed somewhere, and it's not really commercial work.
Yeah.
That's something completely different than doing a commercial job for a brand that hires you through an agency, because that's exactly what you said. They are buying that to sell. And the other thing is possibly self-promotion or just an artistic work. And that's completely fine. And there we are again with working for free or with the full price. I'd rather do that editorial for free and have the agreement with the photographer that once there's a paid job, we're gonna do that together, and we are gonna charge what we want. Right?
Yeah.
And but that's something you need to get used to. And
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong in the beginning with working for an hourly rate if you want to get started.
Yeah.
And even if it's a very low one, you need to get your hands dirty, and you need to do the job and get your experience. And there's no way around getting the experience when starting out, when working for free or working for a low price. But you can always be honest and open and say that I want to grow. I want to grow with you, and we agree on this now. We can see if it works out, and if it doesn't, for whatever reason, we need to adjust the price next time.
Yeah. And if your work is still good, I mean, people don't have a problem with it. I had the talk with a few of my clients this year, because I'm going to increase some of my pricing next year, and I was like, okay, next year there is going to be about a 10% increase, and they were like, okay.
Yeah, there's a 6% inflation right now.
Yeah. And that's just the beginning. So
50 euros is not 50 euros next year.
My stocks are going down. I need to make money.
Hey, that's something that I know people that charge the same price than 20 years ago.
Yeah.
For the hour, a low price. Why? There's no reason for that.
Yeah.
If you would have saved that money back then, and you try to get it out of the bank now, there's possibly nothing left.
Yeah.
Because inflation ate it all. And yeah, that's something that you should consider when doing your business, because that's something like that, how the system works right now. And maybe you should start offering that people pay you in Bitcoin, but that's a different discussion.
Yeah, not sure it's the right time, but perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah, if you think long term, that's okay. But let's see. That can be another topic,
Bitcoin and NFTs.
NFTs is actually something that can be very interesting for photographers and also retouchers, and also as a team. So we should think about that.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm sure it could be an interesting discussion. I'm not sure it's how it's used nowadays is the right way to use it. I feel it's just a bubble,
but you see what's happening, right?
Yeah.
Adidas bought its way in. Nike just did it this week, and it's a huge playground right now, and it's the Wild West, like it has been in '95 when the internet was started.
It's Web 3.0. I mean,
and we're going to talk about that differently in 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something that artists now can consider to build some momentum, or also build some series of art that they can sell in a different way. But of course, you need to inform yourself about that.
Yeah.
Someone just said that. Young Bio said that in thinking of NFT for photography. Yeah, sure, it's a good thought, and dive into this. I'm really fascinated by that. I'm watching it closely, and here, as I said in the beginning, this guy has a lot to say on NFTs, and also brought out his own NFT collection. And it's just about exploring, and there's nothing wrong with exploring new income streams.
Yeah. I mean, 2 years ago, everyone was like, oh, TikTok is just for people like children dancing in the streets. And today, everyone is on TikTok. I mean, Bitcoin a few years ago, it was just, people were thinking it was just a meme. And nowadays, young people under 18 have made millions out of it. So you never know. And who thought COVID would lock us down? Everything can move around so quickly. So yeah, sure. You've got to look around and try new things.
Absolutely. So Quentin, to wrap this up, what can we point out as things that were very valuable information today? I think know your worth. Yeah, that's definitely one of the most important things. Don't think too small. Think about, change the perspective, and think of yourself as someone else. Yeah. Right. And self-educate yourself in communication. Like ask the right questions. Yeah. And thank you for marketing my newsletter. So I'm gonna get that started again and put out that PDF.
But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Not much to add.
No, and all right. So I think that was a great discussion, and for everybody that just came here, it's going to be stored in the replays or in the video section of this Instagram account, and you can watch it.
Yeah.
And Quentin and me are preparing a few other channels that we can deliver these sessions that we have today, and also the ones that we had and the ones that come in the future.
Yeah.
We're going to stick to 2 weekly episodes, or is it bi-weekly? And
bi-monthly. Bi-weekly, I think, can be either 2 a week or every 2 weeks. So
yeah, we come every 2 weeks. And we're going to prepare something between those 2 years now, right? This one and the next one.
Yeah.
And what else?
I think I'm interested to know if I see we still have some people around. Are you more interested if we still keep it on Instagram, or if we go on Twitch or YouTube, or if we do on different channels, or if you just like the way we do it now, the lives and the kind of podcast? I'm truly interesting to know, because I don't know.
The podcast will stay, right?
Yeah. I mean, in any case, it's going to stay.
We will begin that in the beginning of next year.
Yeah.
So all the episodes will be stored there as podcasts, so you can listen on the go while you drive or walk your dog or whatever, and or while you retouch.
Yeah, it's a live thing. I'm curious to see if people are like to have on different platforms, because I think we could find a way to stream on different platforms, or I don't know.
Yes. So if someone of you here has a thought on if we should go to YouTube. YouTube is fine too, I guess.
Yeah, we'll see.
But we will ask that again in Insta stories. So please let us know, and because it's sometimes it can be a little like, let's say, if you hold your phone for an hour to watch that, and it can be a long time. So having the Insta stuff. So yeah, great point there. YouTube, we could also show off some imagery. Yeah. That's true.
True.
So maybe we do the next one on YouTube
to give it a try.
Great. But anyhow, we will inform you here on Instagram, or you can follow our YouTube channels, Quentin and mine. You will find us easily there. And we're gonna, if we do stream, we will stream those on both channels then.
Yeah.
And we can just give it a try. And great. So let's wrap it up. Thank you everybody for watching.
Thanks, guys.
And see you guys next time. Is it in 2 weeks? What's that? Is that one day? Last day of the year, right?
I don't know what it is.
The 30th. No, the 29th.
Yeah, 29 or 30. Yeah, we'll see.
It will be the 29th then. The Wednesday. All right.
Cool.
Thank you, everybody. Take care. Have a good night.
Bye. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.